rays and so on, have a very distinctive kind of mouth plate. Now again, in our workshop, you'd be doing all this hands-on. You'd see the real thing, and there instead of just these crude diagrams, stingray barbs, things like that, garfish scales, catfish spines, and so on. So you find, and then the one thing, I don't know why I couldn't find pictures of them, but lots of the larger sea creatures, porpoises and whales, for instance. And Mary can tell you the difference between, a small vertebra in the tail of a whale and a thoracic vertebra of a dolphin might be the same size. But from the shape and other markings, she can say, that's a dolphin, that's a whale. And of course, then we have whale vertebrae that look like tree stumps. And that's the ones I can find, trip over them. And whale ear bones and dolphin ear bones. You can find those. And they have a very distinctive shape, and Mary can tell you which one it is and so on. And so it's really awesome. And notice, you're finding all of this, in a river that usually in January, February, March, it's knee-deep or less. In fact, in April, sometimes it gets down below ankle level, and the canoe trip turns into a canoe dragging trip. Okay, great for fossil hunting, but hard on the back. And the place is most famous, loaded with shark teeth. And so a lot of people, and by the way, the first place to hunt when you get down there is in somebody else's leftover pile, or scree pile. Because a lot of people are after shark teeth. It's the only thing they recognize, and they throw away beautiful specimens. So usually you look through somebody's little pile of throwaway, and you've already got half a day's work done. And there are all kinds of varieties of sharks. And Mary can tell you which one. I can tell you it's a shark tooth. Sometimes I can identify lemon sharks and a sand shark, but don't count on it. If you have any question, ask Mary. But lots of varieties and lots of sizes. Now you can find zillions of little teeny ones. And a 2-year-old can do awesome finding these little teeny shark teeth. You can find them, about that size. It's kind of nice. You can make a nice little necklace out of them that size. You'll find some an inch or two long that are perfect, sometimes with a little serrated edges and everything. Those are really nice. And there's a good chance you could find at least one of those. When we do counts, we give prizes for things. The winner for the shark tooth on a one-day canoe trip frequently has about 150 to 200 individual shark teeth, some of which are really spectacular. Once in a while, you get some really good ones. So we had some neighbors. One of our favorite spots came back with a 3 1/4-inch meg. That's short for Carcharodon megalodon, the great white. That makes a really good necklace. Now his was like that, except for it gets a little tiring after a while. It was missing one corner, but he just gave it to Mary, who put the corner right back on. And you couldn't tell by looking, you could tell by feel that it's been repaired. But actually, one guy just found half, a split one, a really big one. She made the other half. It looked like a whole tooth like that. And that's not really cheating if you tell people you've done it. And of course, you've got something to go by, so you're not just making up something from nothing. One of my students, the rule is, by the way, when you hunt fossils, hunt next to Dr. Parker. He never finds anything, but he's always next to the person who does. And so we were snorkeling this time. You get a few deep holes, and this time there wasn't a gator hole. So we were snorkeling, and this student, I was only that far away from him. He comes up with this shark tooth the size of the palm of my hand. And I thought, we have a plastic model of one in the lab. I thought he brought that just to tease me. But it wasn't. His was real. And I've kept his phone number and address, and I'm still after him to loan it to us. And so that can happen. By the way, some of you may know, some of you probably been going to Florida on vacation. For years, if you go to the Sarasota or Venice area, they were picking those up. I mean, that was fairly common 20 or 30 years ago to find the big ones. Obviously, it's getting harder and harder to find the big ones because a lot of people know about this now. So we were up in Clearwater and we'd see some big storm. We'd say, well, let's get down there as soon as the storm ends. Well, by the time we drive down there from Clearwater, there's 500 tourists out there, combing the grounds. But we know some places on Peace River that people can't get to that easily that are really nice. Here's some megalodon teeth, in a model, and they get a lot bigger than that yet. Well, now notice then what you've got here. And this is what's kind of neat. You know, here in Colorado, if you go hunting fossils, you go in a particular layer, and you may find, you know, lots of brachiopods and trilobites and maybe a few corals and sponges and lots of clams and snails and things like that, but you're not going to find any dinosaur bones. And then you go to a different layer, and you'll find maybe some dinosaur bones, maybe some good ones. But you're not going to find a lot of trilobites. You're not really going to find a lot of brachiopods or things like that. Might find a few fern leaves or cycads. And so different environmental zones tend to come in different distinct layers. And if you're going hunting, now they can be mixed, and that's significant. But usually you can tell ahead of time, if you want to find this kind of fossil, go to that layer, not that one, if you want to have your best odds of finding it. Of course, if you find one out of place, make a big deal out of it. But normally that in Florida, that's not so. In Florida, you have these big land animals, big sea creatures, big switch back and forth like the gators do creatures, all in the same area. And it's not just that they were, eroded by the river and mixed from sites where they originally buried separately. When you find the in situ rock, like you do in a giant shell pit, for instance, and there are a lot of these in our area, they used to let you go into them. And we took students there, and Mary and I went a lot. Then somebody stubbed their toe and sued for $25 million, and now they don't let you in there anymore. So we've got some contacts, and we might be able to get into some of these, but it's a crying shame that so much has been ruined for other people that way. But the one we used to go to there by Sarasota, one person had excavated a whale buried in these shell pit, made a little museum there in Sarasota with this whale as a major demonstration. But someone else, same level, just follow that down just a little way in the quarry wall, excavated a mammoth. Now, where do you find mammoths and whales living together and being fossilized? And the evolutionist says, well, that's an easy question. Estuaries. That's where you see land and sea environments come together. All right, is it true that land and sea environments are found very close together in estuaries? Yes, it is true. Remember, no evolutionary lie is any good unless it's got a little bit of truth in it.